Hey guys, I'm gonna try to make this uh, more concise than my last video. Should be chill, but yeah, it's gonna be a continuation of the death of Pope Francis, and we're gonna be talking about basically connecting these two things here. All right. So on the left we have this really epic scene from Back to the Future with the clock tower being struck at 10:04. And something I realize is that Jesuit equals 10:04. So I think that's pretty perfect, considering everything else sharing with the Father and Son and Pontiff Pope being the bridge builder. And I've been showing how that has to do with the bridge between like Jesus being the bridge, our way to the Father. And I'm also going to show, I'm going to talk about this very hot topic with J.D. Vance being one of the last leaders to meet up with Pope Francis before he died on Easter. I believe it was Easter. And I think it was the 19th. Let me double check. So yeah, it was Easter when they met. And so, okay, JD, that's the 10th letter and the 4th letter, 10-4, like Father is 10-4, okay, and Father. So there's a lot I have to share here, but before I do that, let me review something real quick. I know I sound like a broken record with, showing these videos that I made recently, but it's important. Okay, so this was 5 days ago. On the 17th is when I posted this, and yeah, I was talking about Otani, and I've been talking about Sirius, and this 595 code, how it has to do with bridges, middle, because the Sirius equals 595 in Greek, and the 595th chapter of the whole Bible is the middle split, the chapter that splits the Bible in half, the 595th. And I mentioned here, okay, just recall that I talked about the day that I went to Columbus, Ohio, and that was the same day that Otani joined the 50-50 club. I actually predicted that it was going to happen because I was going to be landing in Columbus, Ohio, and Columbus and Ohio both equal 595. All right, so think about the 50-50 club, like half, 50-50. Also, so in terms of Sirius A, or Sirius is a binary star system, so it's Sirius A and Sirius B, and they revolve around each other every 50 years, so 50 and 50. So yeah, just recall that, how I was talking about this like middle stuff with Ohio, and yeah, like bridges and all that. So okay, so I'm not gonna show my face for this one just because I don't want to block any of the information. But all right, so we have JD Vance. As you can see here, he was born in Middletown, Ohio. So this is like super double coded, and because of what I just shared, and with the Ohio, okay, so the Ohio part, but like it's overemphasized with the fact that he's from Middletown, Ohio. Okay, so the Ohio part is already, like I shared this here. Okay, so Psalms. Okay, well, I didn't actually share this, but this just hit me pretty recently. Ohio equals 117 and 595, and Psalms 117. That's the 595th middle chapter of the Bible. So Ohio is super freaking coded, like it's super coded to this whole Sirius bridge narrative. And also he's 40 years old, and I talked about the number 40 in that same video, I'll show you. So yeah, you can see here, I was talking about life and then number 40, and I talked about that in my last video too. But again, this is from that same video that was on April 17th, and this whole thing, I don't want to waste too much time, but just recognize I was talking about 40. It was very important to this video. There was another, oh yeah, here too. Yeah, so I was talking about 40. So yeah, keep that in mind. And I forgot to write it, but also remember how I've been talking a lot about my dad, and he died at age 40. But yeah, so life equals 40. JD Vance is 40 years old right now, and it's also interesting that 10 times 4 is 40. Like how father is 104. So I think that's like it's pretty intricate, but I think that's pretty on point. So just for him being 40 years old, from Middletown, Ohio, being the last person to visit Pope Francis, all the bridge stuff, the bridge to the Father stuff that I showed in the last video, I think it's I'm almost 100% sure that this is what it's about. And yeah, I'm pretty much 100% sure. And one more thing that's really important about Ohio is, so starting from the top, okay, so Psalms 117, where I showed you the 595th middle chapter of the Bible, it's only 2 verses, so it's the shortest chapter, and the ordinal value of the whole chapter is 1597. So 1597 is the 17th Fibonacci number, and that's important because Ohio is the 17th state. And what's really interesting, which I learned just recently, is like the abbreviation of Ohio is OH. Like there's a 15th letter and the 8th letter, and so this is very theoretical, okay, but I think it's on point because it's theoretical in the sense that it's not like complete public like knowledge, or even amongst like the truth community, that Sirius is associated with this bridge to the Father thing. I'm trying to establish that. I think like what I'm discovering shows that all the stuff with Sirius in the middle and bridge is directly associated with the bridge to the Father stuff that I've been finding as well. So like when you put those two together, like Sirius and bridge to the Father, it's 1508, like the 15th letter O, 8th letter H, and all the stuff that I just shared with Ohio, 17th state, 17th Fibonacci number is 1597, and then this verse, the 595th verse of the whole Bible, the very middle, it equals 1597 in ordinal. So also I forgot to say, but yeah, shout out to Cody with all the Ohio stuff. Like I can never talk about Ohio without thinking about Cody, and it's crazy too that even me and Ball, AJ, I think it was the last live we did, but yeah, he was bringing up this Ohio is for lovers theme that he's been seeing, that I see now. I wouldn't have been able to see it on my own, but I completely see where he was getting at. And that was like when we did that was like last week. So the fact that this Ohio thing is so prevalent right now, I think, yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence. So this is just a recap of what I shared. from the last video. So again, the day that he joined the 50-50 club, remember 50-50 middle. I landed in Columbus, Ohio. Columbus and Ohio both equal 595. Sirius equals 595 in Greek. Okay, and this day was on 9/19/24, September 19th, 24. Okay, so from JD, I'll be on this side. Okay, so from JD Vance's birth to the day that all that stuff I just shared, the day I landed in Columbus, Ohio, when Otani joined the 50-50 club, which I predicted would most likely was going to happen on that day because I was landing in Columbus, Ohio. So JD Vance was 40 years and 7 weeks old, no extra days. That's like on the nose right there. 40 years and 7 weeks. And I shared with you guys that the bridge to the Father equals 407. And I didn't even know until after I made that video, but Pope equals 407 too. And I shared, it was actually before Pope Francis died, but I shared that he visited my dad's hometown where my dad grew up in Jakarta, Indonesia. He visited there the day that I turned 407 lunar months. Well, he left because I could show you real quick. All right, so this is the Wikipedia page for Pope Francis's visit to Indonesia, and when you look at the timeline, so it says that he left Monday. So it starts here, Monday, September 2nd, 2024. So that's when he left. He landed Tuesday, September 3rd, and then Wednesday, the 4th, was when all the festivities began. So the day he left, that was the new moon. That was when I turned 407 lunar months. Okay, so it was like just the timing was just like perfect, you know. It was unbelievable. But yeah, so what I just shared again, so JD Vance from Ohio, Middletown, Ohio, who was like pretty much the last leader to meet Pope Francis before he died, on Easter. Okay, so Jesus, I'll show you how important that is too. He was 40 years and 7 weeks the day that I landed in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, both equaling 595. The same day that Otani joined the 50-50 club, and he even became 595 at bat that day. He joined the 40-40 club exactly 595 months or 595 weeks after his MLB debut. So on top of this, like on top of all that, the Otani stuff was already like friggin' mind blowing, and so this just is the icing on the cake with the whole thing with JD Vance, and that totally connects to this all connects. Like what I showed it. I don't want to ramble too much, but okay. So again, 40 years, 7 weeks. The bridge to the Father is 407. Pope is 407 as well. And now get this. This is the same span. So that 40 years and 7 weeks equates to 14658 days. So why is this so crazy? Because for one, Father is 58, and the 14:6 for John 14:6, Jesus saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. The bridge to the Father. I'm telling you guys, like that's the same. So after showing this, he was 40 years and 7 weeks on the nose, no extra days. The day that I landed in Ohio, and I can't prove this. It sucks. It really sucks. So hopefully you just take my word for it, because I remember it. I landed at 4:07 p.m. in Ohio. I know I did for a fact. I just I didn't think much of it at the time because I didn't know all this information at the time. So it wasn't I didn't really know. The only thing that I knew was that I was in my 407th lunar month because I had turned 407 lunar months on September 2nd. So that was the only thing that stood out to me, but I didn't know all this. But I'm you just have to take my word for it. But you don't have to if you don't want to. You're not forced to, but it's true. Okay, so after that, that same span is 14658 days, like John 14:6, and 58 Father. Like and that's just insane to me. You know, like it seems like I know it sounds so it sounds irrelevant because what does this day have to do with Pope Francis dying? But like it has everything to do with it, because what I'm saying, remember everything I shared yesterday about the bridge to the Father, and how I was emphasizing how many videos I was making about the Father and the Son becoming one, the bridge to the Father, like leading up to his death, like right before, literally like the last video before was about bridges and the bridge to the Father. And now I'm showing why JD Vance was like why he was the last one to see Pope Francis, pretty much. Like that's like a hot topic. That's pretty much the narrative. Obviously, like he wasn't the very last person to ever see him, but like most stories are saying that he was like the last leader to visit Pope Francis. So it goes without saying that this is a hot topic. JD Vance visiting Pope Francis right before he died. Like you can't you really can't deny that. But it keeps going. Okay, so also this was the score of the game. This was the score of the game when Otani, that one I just showed, and it was very obscure because it was 20-4. Like how many baseball games end 20-4? But I think it's because the bridge to the Father equals 204. I'm almost 100% sure that's why. Like, what are the odds, like, of all this? What are the odds? It's like impossible. Like, and then there's 17 again for the 17th state, Ohio. All right, now getting into this. So the Great Conjunction, right? Remember where how I was showing how significant the Great Conjunction was to his death, Pope Francis's death. And so in Back to the Future, I've been really adamant about this hidden, I guess it's like a hidden, like the true theme, the true story of what Back to the Future is symbolizing, and it's this the Father and Son becoming one, the bridge to the Father. And Marty McFly even goes back in time to meet his dad in the past. But anyways, this famous scene here, so it's the lightning and the clock tower, right? The lightning strikes the clock tower, so that is representing Jupiter and Saturn, because Jupiter, let me just get off the screen real quick. Okay, so now we're gonna look at the first day, like the day that they go back in time, because it's the day that you'll see here. Okay, so November 5th, 1955. Doc Brown, who had earlier chosen November 5th, 1955 as the date for the first test of the time machine. This date holds great significance for Doc as it marks the day that he first had the idea for the revolutionary flux capacitor, which makes time travel possible. So yeah, so this is when they go back in time, and when you go from that day to JD Vance's birth, it's 104.98 days. So this really speaks a lot to me, I feel like, because so 104, okay, father equals 104, and 98 is my father's name, Ricardo Desaad. So my father was Ricardo Desaad, 104 and 98. Okay, so I like I said, I just feel like that really speaks to me really heavy. That, you know, I showed how significant this father-son theme is to Back to the Future. And this guy, JD Vance, who I showed has all this middle symbolism with Ohio. He's the last leader to visit Pope Francis before he died. Like, it's yeah, I mean, this just, I feel like this really speaks to me a lot, you know. Hope you can see why. Yeah. Again, 104.98. My father is Ricardo Desaad, 104 and 98. Okay, so if you go from JD Vance's birth to the release of Back to the Future, it is 336 days. So he was born 336 days before the release of Back to the Future, and the bridge to the father equals 336. So there's just so many things. Like, it's just so many. All right, so this is the date that in the past the lightning struck the clock tower. It was on November 11th, 1955. So this is really interesting because from that day to my birth is 13113 days. So Casey put me onto this, so let me just break it down. So the 6th, so 13 is the 6th prime, 113 is the 30th prime. So it's like 6:30, right? So 6 and 30. Remember the lightning and the clock, that's the father and son becoming one. Don't forget that. Okay, so from this day to my birth, 13113 days. 13 is the 6th prime, 113 is the 30th prime. So you got 6:30. And so the Gateway Arch, okay, so you know I've been talking a lot about, well, hopefully you know, I've been talking a lot about the arches, the Masonic Arch, in terms of all the bridge stuff. Yeah, in terms of all the bridge stuff, because the capstone, this capstone is the missing link, the bridge between the two pillars, making the two become one. Because without the capstone, there's the separation, and I've been talking about that a lot. You know, with the Cancer and the 69. The 69 is the capstone of the arch. So, in terms of that, all right. So we have the Gateway Arch, which is 630 feet tall, just like the 630 I just showed. So 630 feet tall, and so yeah, this is what Casey's been putting me onto. So 630 minutes is 10:30 a.m. just like I've been showing. if you, especially if you watched my last video, you know, this is the verse that I've been like, you know, spearheading. John 10:30, I and my Father are one. 10:30. And I also put this here because, again, in theory, you know, I'm trying to establish that this Sirius thing, and thinking about how Sirius is connected to Back to the Future as well, because Doc Brown says, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some Sirius-ish, like, and then they have the dog Einstein. So Sirius is a huge aspect of Back to the Future. Okay, so this is theoretical, but I'm trying to establish it. Okay, because I'm like I said, like I'm finding more and more things that are corroborating my theory. But yeah, Sirius, the Dog Star Bridge, is 10:30, so I think that's super interesting. But I think this stuff is more important. All this right here, the Gateway Arch being 630 feet tall, just like you have the 6 prime and the 30th prime here, right? And 630 minutes is 10:30 a.m. Just like John 10:30, I and my Father are one, right? So what's really, really interesting is that from the Gateway Arch, the opening of it, to J.D. Vance, the guy who was the last leader to visit Pope Francis before he died on Easter, his birth is exactly 975 weeks, and my name, Sean Desad, is 979. Okay. Just like, that's craziness. And I think this is the last slide, I think. So, after all that, you know, now what are the odds? See, I brought it all back. I brought it all back to this, and from the very beginning, like the date they go back in time and Back to the Future, to, well, I put this, okay, because so it's actually to the day that Pope Francis, his recorded death date, but like I mentioned in my last video, that he actually died, at least in my time zone, it was still Easter. It was like 10 p.m. But still, the whole thing is that it's about J.D. Vance visiting him, and then being the last leader to visit him. So it's really more focused on Pope Francis's death date. So anyways, from the day that they go back in time and Back to the Future to the day that Pope Francis died is 69 years and 24 weeks on the nose, and that's my name, Sean Desad, is 69 and 24. I think that's it. Yep. So that's why I just thought it was so insane. Like, actually before Pope Francis died, I even texted Cody. Let me see if I can find that on Discord. Yeah, so you can see right here. Right here. Okay, so this was on Easter in the morning. So I said, this is before Pope Francis died. And then, so I was like, oh, J.D. Vance visited Pope Francis yesterday. I got confused, but I guess it was earlier that day. But yeah, J.D. Vance visited Pope Francis. J.D. 10-4, Father 104, J.D. from Ohio. Because Cody knows all the, like, when I say Ohio, he knows exactly what I'm referring to, because he knows all about the Sirius connections with Ohio. So yeah, I mentioned that before Pope Francis died. So yeah, just reiterating. JD Vance from Ohio. Ohio equals 595. The very middle chapter of the Bible is the 595th middle split chapter, which is Psalms 117. Ohio also equals 117. Maybe I could just go back. Yeah, here Ohio equals 117 and 595. Psalms 117 is the 595th middle chapter of the Bible. He's from Middletown, Ohio. Actually, I want to end it on this. So if you just Google bridge to the Father, okay, you get this. All right, in Christianity, bridge to the Father refers to the concept that Jesus Christ is the only way to reach God, the Father. This idea, often symbolized as a bridge, highlights the connection and pathway that Jesus provides for humans to access God's presence and grace. Jesus is seen as the mediator bridging the gap between humanity and the divine. So that is exactly what I am portraying through all my work. That's what I'm sure that is what they are portraying to us. Like, they're doing it in these very cryptic ways, but I guarantee that that's what this is about. It's not about, like Pope Francis, like, it's not about, like, because I know people think it's like blasphemous because I guess they say that he claimed that you need to go through him to get to the Father, but all this stuff is just symbolic. It's just all symbolic for the truth of Jesus Christ being the bridge to the Father. All that stuff, everything going on is showing that. Even the fact that I have all these connections with my dad and his death and all that stuff, like, that is just a microcosm for the grand message of this, what I'm showing here. And it, like, all this stuff happened on Easter. Like, it's just like the bridge to the Father is why JD Vance is a hot topic with this whole thing. Even without that, Pope, the whole thing with Pope and, Pope, Pontiff, bridge builder, papacy, Father, like, it's like right there. It's right there. And I kind of feel like I'm the only one who's like emphasizing that right now, and I'm hoping I'm not. I'm hoping that it doesn't stay that way. So please, like, if, like, start, like, contributing to this whole to all this, because I know this is what's going on. This is what's going on. That's why it was JD Vance. That's all I'm trying to show. Okay, thank you guys for watching. Hope you have a good night, and yeah, see you next time. Bye. I also forgot to mention, later tonight I'm gonna be going live with AJ, Ball Don't Lie. Stay tuned for that. It's gonna be around 7 p.m. I believe, on my time. So if you're on the East, like around 9 p.m. I'll confirm that in a little bit. If I'm wrong, I'll correct myself. But yeah, that's it. Take care, and God bless. Bye.